Monday, November 2nd. I'm Rim. Scott didn't record the opener with me, and this is Geeknights. Tonight, the ruins of the internet. Let's do this. So you know what this is? This episode of Geeknights right here, which once again has Scott live from Skype.
Crab people?
Yep, I got Scott over the internet. But,
you know what I can see out my window?
What can you see out your window?
Manhattan.
Ah.
You know what? It's not a giant blue penis, I can tell you that.
You know, I wasn't going to make a giant blue penis joke because it seemed like you would have,
That was the only joke to make. That was the only reason to even say.
But he's not even a doctor. It's just Manhattan.
Yeah, I also see a bridge, but I'm not sure which one.
But there's something else important about tonight's show. It's actually the first episode of Season 5 of Geeknights.
You're counting the seasons?
Remember, we used to put the seasons in the ID3, and then we stopped.
You know,
because...
it's not Season 5, it's Season 20. It's Year 5.
Year 5? Why is it Season 20 then?
Because there's 4 seasons per year.
Yeah, but it's one overarching season, and then we have different story arcs like Cowboy Bebop or Get Sack.
Those don't have story arcs at all.
Yeah, but internally, there's the standalone episodes and the complex episodes, but they're all part of the same season.
But we don't have any complex episodes.
But we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Which ones of those are complex?
Pretty much only the Mondays. The other 4 shows are basically review media or bitch about stuff, and then Monday is like...
You're just failing at math today. Other 4 shows, huh? What's the 5th show?
What do you mean the other 4 shows? From nothing, the specials.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but, you know, that aside, for Halloween, we kept saying we're going to do a state of the podcast on Halloween, and then no.
You kept saying it. I didn't say shit.
The royal we. So, we... maybe
when have I been part of your we?
Maybe to differentiate there's a tasteless joke I'll skip there, but maybe instead I should always, whenever someone's using the royal we, I feel like you should say we, like some sort of like we. Maybe roll the R that's silent.
That's not rolling the R at all.
If it's a silent R, it's definitely rolled.
Anyway, so here, let me do some. Let me do some generic sort of opening bits here.
No, because I was about to say, instead of, doing a state of the podcast, we just went into the city with a bunch of our friends and watched the Halloween parade, which the theme this year was Here Be Dragons.
Yeah, that part with the water and the old school map, that was good stuff.
That was pretty hardcore. The highlights of the parade were pretty much that, which was like the main thing, and that one gigantic crawling skeleton that was far bigger than I thought.
Yep. Let's see what's going on over here. I got the TV today. I have no couch. No couch.
No couch. Now, did you order a couch? You haven't picked a couch yet?
I've picked the couch. I just haven't ordered it yet because I need some money.
Yeah. Couches are surprisingly expensive, and the weird thing is because
this one's actually, I was looking and I was like, it was like $200 delivery from IKEA. I was like, but actually, even then, it turns out like other couches like $1,200 before delivery. So I'm like, well, there. Yeah. Like, this one's only $900.
I'm looking at couches to do my possible house, and the more I look, it's like the more expensive, the more like minimalist and simple the couch is, the more expensive it is.
No, I'll show you this one that I'm going to get. Maybe you can get the same one. It's really, it's very good for sleeping on, too. I laid on it at the IKEA, and it was like, oh.
So I kind of have this vague idea of I want like one kind of small, stylish couch with maybe like a built-in table on it, like fancy style and low. And then I want a bunch of like low, stylish chaise lounges upstairs.
Yeah, here's the thing is like, I got this TV, and the TV is pretty low. It's not like high up. So if I sit in my freedom chair, I sort of have to look down at it.
See, you should have mounted it higher or mounted it on one of those arms.
It's not mounted on the wall. It's sitting on the thing.
Mount it on the wall.
No, I can't. No, I can do that.
Why not? Just pay someone. They'll do it.
The thing is, until I get a couch or like a sumo, it's real uncomfortable to look at the TV.
I'm definitely thinking
I'm going to get a rug, the couch, and like maybe 1 or 2 sumos eventually.
I'm definitely thinking about when I get the TV, wherever I am, mounting it, if not on the swivel arm, at least on the, angle the TV slightly in any direction arm.
So that's the thing is what's on the stand, and because it's on the stand, I can aim it at the kitchen and I can aim it at the computer. Or I can aim it straight ahead at the couch that doesn't exist yet. So it's like I can aim it any which way. It's very good.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about in the kitchen. Of course, I don't in that. If I get that house, then I don't need the kitchen monitor and the kitchen computer with the kitchen sound system because it's kind of close enough to the living room to see the TV.
Yeah, I have a bedroom and I have the
Course,
TV sound system.
I've saved up.
I just need something for the computer here. It's very annoying to have no audio on the computer.
Sadly, I've saved up so much money, just because this house has taken so long to buy. Because apparently the people who owned it before me never, ever paid property taxes, and the bank's trying to sort that shit out. But I've saved up so much money, I might just buy a bigger house nearby at this point and just forget the house I'm waiting on.
Oh, what you gonna do?
Yeah, I got a lot of money in the bank because I expected to have a mortgage payment, so I was being frugal. So I've got all this money.
I'm so frugal right now. The only things I'm buying are necessities like food, right?
I only spent $1,000 last month total.
Yep. Buying, rent, obviously, paying the bills, all the, transportation, all the necessities, and then the only other things I'm spending money on are household things, and that's it. So it's like, until I have all the household things sorted out, not buying any luxury of any sort.
No. Beacon got a lot more exciting. I was out running yesterday, and I see, there's all those, like, all around Beacon, more and more, I'm seeing those weird Verizon trailers. They're like a little trailer with the door on it, and then a bunch of cables just come out and go up into the poles.
Yeah, I saw quite a few of those.
So I finally went up to one, and I looked at it, and on the side it said Verizon Fios something. And then behind
they put the labels on whatever.
No, behind it was a big sign that was like, and it was pointing at the street. I just never noticed it because it faces the street of like another subdivision right next to where I live now. And it was like, Fios installed here. And it pointed at a house that had Fios. So I was like, oh shit. So I look online and Fios is here at this house. I could get it if I was going to stay here. It's not at the other half of Beacon yet, but all of Beacon's getting Fios real soon.
Yeah, I mean, there was that house that was like on the edge of Fishkill near the highway.
Now it's all the way up. You know that subdivision on the road that goes up to the prison right at the edge of Beacon? They have Fios now. Yeah, like right next to that the rice store. So I'm kind of excited. And I'm thinking more and more I might get the business class Fios, and we could theoretically bring the Geeknights hosting fully in-house and have a lot more capability to do crazy bullshit.
Yeah, I think, let's leave it at Linode.
Oh, yeah, I think my plan, we should always have a Linode because...
what we should do with that sort of hosting is
video. We can host video and game servers to start.
Well, we could do that. We could get rid of the libsyn, and you could game servers, all that sort of stuff.
Basically, what I want to do is, one, I want to keep the Linode because it's good to have a secondary site and to have, distributed hosting, especially if we start consolidating.
Yeah.
But I just love the idea of having like...
Also, their electricity is a little bit more reliable than, say, your house.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm planning on getting beefy equipment. Because remember, I have access to the old IBM Gray Market.
You're not going to buy a gigantic UPS.
I'm going to buy a UPS big enough to at least keep a server rack going for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
Though, one of the as big as I would need it for a couple of servers on that kind of rack would be like $400.
Even so. Anyway, that's half a couch almost.
Yeah, but to be fair, as I whip out my penis, I make a lot more money than you. I have money to just piss away on bullshit.
You don't make that much money. Oh, so speaking of money,
I make almost twice what you make.
No.
Yeah.
So what's it called? I had to buy some HDMI cables, right? And luckily they showed up today, but I ordered them from that monoprice.com that everyone seems to love.
Oh, that's a good site.
Yeah, I got two HDMI cables. Guess how much they were individually?
You wouldn't ask unless it was real high or real low. I'm going to say $6.
They were like $1.92 each.
The thing is, $6, I would have thought, yeah, that's a great deal.
And the thing was, I was going to get them from Amazon Basics, right? Amazon has this new thing, Amazon Basics, which is exactly what it sounds like.
You were almost going to say basically, and then you didn't.
It's basically like Amazon.
There it goes.
It's Amazon branded stuff, and one of the stuffs they have is cables. Like,
I didn't know they were doing that. That means buy Amazon stock. Jesus.
You can get like an Amazon branded USB cable, And thing is, they have some HDMI cables here. Let's see, HDMI cable for about $6, but Monoprice beat Amazon. So.
It's interesting because Amazon beat everyone in the world except for specialty tech stuff. Like cables or electronics, you got to go to like Newegg or one of those specialty cable places
One
online.
more thing about this, and then we will proceed with our show, right?
Yeah,
so these
yeah.
HDMI cables that I got, they are HDMI version 1.3. So I was like, what the hell was version 1.0? What are we on version 2 yet? Am I sure am I getting the right one? I'm like, what the hell's the difference, right? So I went to Wikipedia, and you know what it says?
What'd it say?
Well, first of all, 1.3 is just fine. That's what you want right now, right? But coming very soon is 1.4.
Is this
And,
like the different DVIs where you could use DVI, like one cable to have 2 different monitors on it, or like there's some
that's DVI dual link. That's completely different.
Because there's also like some DVI cables can support the old analog stuff, like in parallel, and some can't.
No, this is a straight up upgrade. All right, so here's the thing. HDMI 1.3 can do color video, right, in either RBG mode or YCBCR mode. It's basically DVI video, right? It can do DVD audio, Super Audio CD, automatic lip syncing, True HD, something Dolby something, DTS audio stuff, right? That's what HDMI 1.3 can do. HDMI 1.4 can also number one, it has an audio return channel. So audio can go both ways on it at the same time, right? Number two, it has some sort of 3D over HDMI, which I think is possibly for 3D movies. I'm not sure exactly. It's something.
Yeah, well, I see more and more 3D stuff is, I think, going to pick up because they can't keep that in the realm of the theater forever.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's 3D over HDMI, whatever that means. It can support a much, much larger resolution video.
All
so
right.
you can have like a red camera hooked up with HDMI almost. It's 4K, all right? And you know what else you can have on there with all that other stuff on this one cable? You're not gonna, you're not gonna say.
No, I'm not
what?
even gonna. I'm not even gonna.
HDMI 1.4 can also have Ethernet at the same time.
Huh, that's actually...
With one cable, you can have Ethernet in both directions, audio in both directions, 3D ultra-high-definition video in one direction. And by the way, the audio is basically perfect digital audio. One cable.
That's a good cable. That's what happens when you move everything to digital and you don't need analog for anything anymore. You can have longer cable lengths and you can cram more into the cable.
Yep. See, the reason that this cable can do all this, though, right, is because think about it. None of those things, it can't. People are like, oh, well, how come USB isn't, that great? It's like, well, because this is just a dumb cable. USB actually has a serial data transfer protocol that needs thinking on, both ends. HDMI is just like take the audio, shove it down the wire. There's not a lot of thinking going on in the protocol. It just sends it down the wire straight up, and it assumes, reliability and such. So, all right. Any good news going on?
I got a bunch of news. Do you have any news?
Do I have a news?
Sounds like no.
Well, there's so much tech news going on. I don't know which one I'm going to talk about. And I don't feel like I have a lot to say about some of the really good ones, No,
I want to talk a little bit about, even though it's more society than it is really technology, but there's that whole story about the blogger that supposedly humiliated an entire set of town councilors into resigning by basically calling them out on whatever.
Actually enough people read his blog that cared and mattered?
Well, from what I can gather, and obviously not all the details are readily available, and I did not engage in any significant amount of journalism. I basically read Slashdot comments, and then I followed one link some Slashdot guy linked.
Yeah, that's the opposite of journalism.
I would argue that that's more journalism than was put into the majority of newspaper articles I attempted to read in print in the last month.
Maybe.
I bought a New York Times not that long ago.
Why?
I was curious. I was curious how low the rabbit hole went. Kind of like how I went back to Dig the other day.
It's just old news.
No, it's not even just that it was old news. It was poorly written old news. I could write a better article just by looking on the internet.
Written, or else how would anyone understand it?
I'm not even talking poorly written, written at the 7th grade level like most newspapers are. I'm talking about just poorly written even for a 7th grader.
Oh. I can write good.
But there's a lot going on here, and as far as I can tell, the guy basically was blogging about what was going on and pointing out what the counselors were doing. And enough people found out about this in his blog to where it wasn't that they read his blog and then got angry. It was that they read his blog and then started showing up at the council meetings to see what was going on. And as far as I can tell, these counselors it's a volunteer position anyway and all that, just could not in any way handle public scrutiny and people asking them questions and challenging them in person. So they all quit because they couldn't take the heat.
Oh.
And I didn't read all the details. Maybe there's a lot more going on here, but this is not a story of, oh my God, blogs are now the future of journalism, blah, blah, blah. The real story here is that technology is getting to the point to where it is very trivial for one person doing any amount of investigative journalism in a non-national realm, like anything local, anything small, to bring enough physical local pressure onto people to make stuff happen. I mean, most local politicians get no examination whatsoever except like the old biddies who show up to the town council meetings at 4 o'clock on a Thursday while the rest of us work.
Mm-hmm.
But if a blogger in the local town gets just enough people interested enough to force them to do something or come under any scrutiny, I don't think a lot of people can deal with scrutiny. And especially as far as I can tell, the people who resigned were basically the really conservative people from the conservative part of town who got elected, but a lot of other people in the area are more liberal. And I've seen this trend where generally, at all levels of government, people who are reactionary or conservative really can't actually defend their opinions or their positions against any amount of public questioning or scrutiny.
I think that's just most people, period.
Yeah, but at the same time,
any opinion they have, regardless if it's a political opinion.
Like, what was that video recently about?
Any questioning whatsoever.
I saw a video recently about, I think it was a state government thing, and there was another one at the national level where there was a debate about whether or not to legalize marijuana. And all the people who were pro-legalization had actual arguments, and when confronted with counter-arguments, responded. And without question, everyone against the legalization of marijuana had talking points. And the moment anyone questioned those talking points or provided an argument that they didn't have a talking point for, they had no answer at all. And more, I think it's just, the old argument that people say the media is biased toward liberals or that sort of thing. I think it's just that more and more the facts are biased toward the right answers. And it's harder and harder to hide from the fact that your position is indefensible when very few people can use technology that more and more of the people defending indefensible positions don't understand to bring to light their indefensibility.
It could be. I mean, is it that there are certain positions that are only held because they're holdovers from a time when we didn't know better and people
By and large, that's the kinds of positions that I see on the wrong side of the people who are also technologically proficient.
Yeah.
But also, look at this. Remember Sanctuary, right? What were they trying to do in Sanctuary? The goal wasn't...
Yakuza.
That aside, let that finger fly.
Did you watch the latest South Park with the whales?
Oh my God, fuck you, dolphin and whale!
It was genius, but did you notice it was a big boat full of Japanese people?
Yes, and I thought about Sanctuary.
I also thought about Sanctuary.
But the thing is, that was an episode where the whole time I'm like, where are they going with this?
I knew where they were going with it. That chicken and cow I saw a mile away.
I saw chicken and cow coming, but I did not expect the method, like the method of the Enola Gang.
Yeah, the thing right before it, I did not know. I did not see.
When they zoomed in on that picture, suddenly it all clicked. But I'm glad that they waited until the last line of the episode, and they're like, now you made them normal. And it's like, oh, zing.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. But yeah. Genius. South Park's still genius.
Yeah. But anyway, in Sanctuary, remember, their goal was not take over the government. The goal was get people interested in government again, because if the people take direct involvement, the whole system falls down.
Get the old people out and the young people in.
All you have to do is bring the baleful gaze of the youth onto government and active, and it all just works itself out in the end. And that's kind of what this guy did here. I mean, who reads blogs? Who blogs? I mean, How many towns are going to imagine this? I imagine the scene 10 years from now, town council meeting, and all the counselors are like old men and old women. And then suddenly, like at one town council meeting, 20 punk kids show up and start asking questions and using words that the old people just don't understand. And then all the
the one thing about this, though, is, right, people always talk about, they want open government. They want to know. They want to see what's going on, right? And it's like, well, first of all, we've had C-SPANs. The government is actually pretty open when you think about it.
Yeah, the problem is it's boring.
That's true. But if you look at things that have happened, I remember there was an article about this. It was a Cory Doctorow thing where he talked about how there were these protests in the UK, and basically there were videos of just police beating up protesters, and it was totally wrong, and everyone saw it. The videos were everywhere. It was not a secret. It was totally transparent, right? And nothing happened. And he's like, transparency doesn't matter without justice.
Yep.
It's like
you've got to get mad.
See what's going on if you can't do anything about it? It's like, think about it. If those people went and questioned those town council people, and the town council people were dicks and just ignored them, then none of it would have mattered.
But at the same time, the sense of social justice. So 20 punk kids show up, right? And they basically show up and they get blown off. Either they don't get mad and they give up, or they get mad. They get mad. And if they get mad, like the guy in the movie that we talk about all the time.
Jail?
No, if they get mad in the non-rioting way.
Okay.
And they just keep coming back to the council meetings. And they force debate. If it's one of those councils where they can, if they force fucking Robert's Rules of Order every time and be as legally pain in the ass as they possibly can, I don't think the old people ruining things can keep up with that and fight it for too long without getting tired. And independently of that, say they don't win, even doing that. The next step, they go out and they start getting everyone else riled up. Because think about it, you and me could put to bear enough resources to probably change everything in local government in Beacon. I mean, we could print more flyers than anyone printed in all the campaigns combined for the election now. We could make websites and blogs, and we could do crazy media that the people currently running for office don't even know how to do.
The thing is, they can walk around town to every house. We can't really do that.
Yeah, but I don't think you need to do that anymore, because if you just get enough people angry... I mean, how did Michael Moore get elected? He got all the 18-year-olds to vote for him, and 18-year-olds voted in more numbers than everyone else combined.
That's when he was 18 and in high school, and he knew all the 18-year-olds in his small hip town.
Yeah, so if you and I, if we go to a high school and we're all hip and cool and we don't get arrested for being
They'll arrest us as soon as we walk onto the grass.
No, because what you got to do is fake it all and be like, lecture series, I want to do an assembly. And we're business professionals. We could easily get an assembly at a high school.
The school asks you to do an assembly. You don't ask them to do it.
Nah, a lot of assembly people approach high schools and be like, I have this assembly. Will you let me do it?
Maybe we should get in the assembly business.
I want to. I really want to. I just haven't spent much effort on it. I approach.
Hey, you're going to make the greatest assembly. You're like, kids, your grades don't mean shit, but if you got bad grades, you're a moron. And also...
you pull the bait and switch. Your assembly is like, you start doing something normal, and then you're like, Wargle Bargle, come to the assembly meetings, vote for me, we'll change everything. I'll drink age 18, just lie to them, and then they'll all show up.
No homework, go for me.
Yeah. Steve-O. But I don't know. I think that. Well, look at our, Scott Johnson, our friend, our FRC member, the good Scott Johnson. He is running for local government, and he's like the youngest dude to run ever out there.
I think we just need to change the rules that say you have to be 40 something to be run for president. I mean, that's complete bullshit at this point.
Yeah, the problem is you can't say it's unconstitutional because it's in the Constitution.
I know. We need an amendment big time. We should also need to really amend, even more so, the one with the age limits on Congress. If you're 18, you should be able to run for anything, period. And if people actually believe
if you're 18, you should be able to smoke or drink.
Is not qualified, then don't vote for them.
Not even further. I think the age of whatever we pick the age of majority to be should be 100% rights with no qualification at all. If you're 18 and that's the age of majority, drinking, smoking, everything.
Yep. Exactly. It's hypocritical not to, to give the one and not the other.
Yep. But then I won't be able to buy any more ultra porn.
No, I can't rent ultra porn anymore. All right. I'll do this one thing of the day real quick.
What's that thing of the day?
Not thing of the day. News real quick. All right. So apparently there's actually some movement in the Department of Web Fonts. I don't know if people understand the situation here, right? But basically in your web browser, their web pages really only use a handful of fonts. And the reason they use that handful of fonts is because those are the only fonts that are guaranteed to be on every computer, because Microsoft, I think they're the Microsoft core fonts. Microsoft put them out there and said, these are the fonts everyone can have for free. And if you think about copyright on music, copyright on fonts is the worst in the universe. This is it's so horrible. just all the fonts that are like standard fonts, you just can't get. It's like, a lot of people like don't even appreciate, like, they install Photoshop and they get like a bajillion fonts. That's probably the reason Photoshop is so expensive.
Even worse, there's so many free fonts, and by and large, they're awful.
Terrible, right?
I mean, they look nice if you don't know better, but then when you try to use them typographically, they're just like, they're unbearable. Like, your website looks bad, and you don't understand why, because it's like some subtle typographical thing because the font was poorly designed.
Exactly.
Like the kerning is off or something like that.
Yeah, typography is actually really complicated, and people just, it's you need. Anyway, so the thing is, like, let's say I want to use a font on my website, but I can't guarantee that Rim has this font on his computers. If he comes to my website, he's not going to see the font that I picked. He's going to see like Arial, all right? And that sucks because now I can't make my website all fancy. Now what I could do is I could type that fancy font in Photoshop, save an image, and use that. But now Google doesn't see that. Google just sees the image. It doesn't know that the image has text in it in my fancy font to make my site look good, right? So the ability to use any font on any website and just, if Rim visited the site and he didn't have the font, he would download it somehow. That is like a holy grail of websites.
Think about
so much because you could make your site look however you wanted typographically with any font that you had.
Think about the fucked uppedness of this situation. Wow, fuck uppedness is now my favorite word.
Really?
Fucked uppedness. There's like two hyphens in there. Anyway, so imagine this. I log on to some NS server or Counter-Strike server, and it has an entire map that I don't have. It automatically downloads the entire map, and then I can play immediately with the same map as everyone else. Yet I go to a website, and that doesn't happen with a font.
Exactly. And the reason is because the people who make fonts are like these complete copyright douchebags. Like, you can go online and look for like individual fonts, and there'll be people like charging like hundreds of dollars for a font, like just one font to have it, And like, there's a website. It's actually a really good website called Blambot, right? And it's this guy, and primarily he makes fonts that are used for like comic book lettering, and he actually has these really good fonts for comic book lettering, and he's like a really good typography guy. The thing is, he's got free fonts, but he's also got pay fonts, and he's also got limited edition fonts, and the pay fonts are not cheap. Let's see, $20 for one font. So, I mean, it's good. And if I was doing comic book lettering, I would probably pay him to help me out because he's got really good fonts. But $20 for a font, Jesus, And so there's no way these people will let you, download a font just because you visit a website of someone who has the font. Then you'll be doing huge, where will they get any money if everyone has all these fonts on their computer? So Mozilla and other people are finally making progress on making, some fonts that'll be able to download onto other people's computers. So there's going to be support for it in the next Firefox, and so we'll see how this goes. Hopefully it will work out and not suck.
So things of the day. This is my favorite kind of prank. It's the nice knife or good knife for flying prank. But
I don't know if it's that kind.
Well, it's the kind of inexplicable. Except the thing is,
and only the first person who reacts to it reacts in that kind of way. All the other, you see that little girl who just looks under the.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of study about how little kids are generally much less easily fooled by randy bullshit and everything because when confronted with something unbelievable, they ask direct questions and look for direct evidence. But adults will go to a chiropractor.
That's right.
But anyway, the problem with this prank is that the video is pretty good because it shows you like how to do the prank and the good idea, but they don't fully execute the prank the way it needs to be executed. The base prank is you make a model that looks exactly like a real kid dressed up as something trick-or-treating, and you leave it on someone's doorstep. So, they, trick-or-treat, they open the door, there's a kid there not moving.
You have to knock on the door, and then you have to hide with a camera that's zoomed in so you can see what's going on.
Or you just leave it there and wait. But you leave it there, right? And then you knock on the door, a person comes out, and they react like, oh, cute kid. The kid doesn't say anything. They go kind of whatever. They put the candy in the basket. The kid still doesn't move. Close the door. Kid still doesn't move. Perfectly stationary. Uncanny valley.
Knock on the door again.
Person gets creeped out. But the video doesn't really go all the way. The real way to do this prank is to get like 4 or 5 kids in on it. So the kids are all at the door, right? So you have like 2 kids at the door and the fake kid. Knocking the door, trick or treat, they all take their stuff. They all walk away, the one kid's still there. The other group of kids comes up, does the same thing. The one kid's still there.
Oh.
Then you knock a 3rd time and just that kid's still there. And then you leave it there and wait for see what the person does. And if they go back into the house or wait, you just leave that fucking kid there.
So that's all right. That's pretty good.
Or you take the kid away and you put him at the street looking at the house all do style. You put him in the bushes looking at the house.
The problem is that the people, if they look out their window, they'll see you moving the kid around. That's the difficult part.
No, because it's dark and you have to, you time it. You look through you see where they look. You'd have to be careful and clever, but you could do it. And also, if you fail...
Plus, I imagine if they were at the point of being freaked out, they would just be in their window looking at the kid. And
as soon as you've gotten to that point, you have won, and you just never touch the kid again. Just leave it there.
The police would come and take your thing away.
That's fine. That's so worth it.
All right. So
Especially, you could go so much further. You leave it in their backyard, just abandon it, so they forget about, man, that creepy kid. Yeah, but then he left, and then the next day they walk out the back door and it's just standing there.
So I was watching this TED Talk, and the TED Talk was about sabbaticals and how great they are.
Oh, dude, so you leave it there, right? And then after like a few times, you get another kid in on it, and you have him scream, and then he lays there like bloody in front of the kid. Okay. So
I watched this TED Talk about sabbaticals and how great they are, and basically this dude, he's like, hey, I know what I'll do. I'll take 5 years off of my retirement, and every 7 years I'll go on a sabbatical. So he's doing that, and it was totally awesome for him. And I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? Maybe I could do that too. I'm working for 7 years, so like 2012, 2013, I'll go on. That's not bad. I could.
Well,
do that.
If I quit my job right now or go on sabbatical, and I don't buy that house, I have enough money to live for like a year.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, like 2013, I'll do it maybe. So, anyway, at the end of the video, he played like this clip of something, and basically I researched this thing and I found it on YouTube. And what this is a little bit randy. It's laughing yoga, and basically the idea is, you laugh a lot and then all your stress goes away. But also, there's some randy about like, kidneys or whatever, right? But the point is that if you actually watch this laughing yoga guy do his laughing yoga shtick, it is like anime hell, solid gold material. This dude is fucked the fuck up, and he is like, you can't tell if like he's laughing naturally or if he's just sort of like doing the physical motion. If he's physically laughing. Yes, but also just watching him makes you like laugh, like he's like.
Wait, does it make you laugh in the?
That's exactly the way he makes you laugh. Exactly that way.
You even almost laughed a little bit at that.
But that's the way he makes you laugh, and it's like he's been doing this for however many his whole life, I guess. He's a yoga dude, so he's probably studying laughing yoga for decades or whatever. So that's what he has mastered that. So watch this. It's like a minute clip of this dude doing his shtick, and there's a whole bunch of other videos of him on YouTube doing this shtick. It's something to see while you're still in this world. All right.
I guess it's time for the Metamucil.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so here I remembered. So we did the meta moment, right? And I forgot that one of the original reasons I wanted to do the meta moment was so that we could constantly remind people of the book club. And yet that is the one thing we have forgotten to do.
Yes, all one of you who read Steppenwolf.
Right. I think maybe 5 people read it. Anyway.
All right, guys, seriously, if you didn't read Steppenwolf, it ends with a game called Murder Car. It's not actually called that, but that is what it is, and you will see what I mean.
And that's not a lie. That's absolutely true. Murder Cars.
Murder Car.
So the next book club book is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas. I have already almost finished reading this first book. I bought like the 5-in-1, and I'm pretty much going to be done with this like in a day. So if you don't read it, you suck.
I don't think I have a copy of it anymore. I think I packed it.
I bought the 5-copy, the 5-volume thing on Amazon.
Shit!
For
Now I gotta buy it again. You know what? Because I was packing up. I'm moving, right? I packed up almost all my books into boxes. I'm sure it's in one of those boxes. Fuck.
Open them up.
No, I'll have to dig through, pull everything. I'm just gonna buy it again.
Anyway, so that is the book club book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Only the first book. You can read more if you want, and probably will, but we're only going to discuss that first one. And it's short, it's easy. I'm pretty sure it's a book that people will actually read. I've already thought of another one that people will actually read for the next time. So anyway, that's that. Any other meta bits we got going on here? Oh, there's a convention this weekend?
Oh, yeah, ZenkaiCon, which I still have to write material for the match game.
I didn't know we were doing the match game.
Yes, we're doing the match game with good... In fact, 2 of the guests are people who have been on the match game with us before.
Oh, those Robotech dudes.
Yeah, and they all know their anime shit, so this is going to be This is going to be possibly one of the better match games we've ever run.
All right, let's go for it.
I'm excited now because it always sucks to run the match game with people who don't know anything about the topic of the convention.
We should get the match game music, and then we should also why don't we just get a bunch of original match game questions?
I did that. That's how I wrote. Remember when I rewrote all the questions to be more generic? I just took original match game questions and changed them to have anime proper nouns.
Yeah, let's just let's do some more of that.
Yeah.
Let's get 20 more. We should be set.
But yeah, ZenkaiCon is this weekend in Pennsylvania.
I'm sure we'll link to it. You can go to it and see.
Yep. Well, the front row crew is going to be there. There's going to be a lot of gaming going on. Burning wheel stuff happening, all that. If you want to hang out with us at a con, really, you can't hang out with us at any big cons anymore. I mean, Otakon, we got shit to do. Kineticon, we're running panels, so we're not going to be able to talk to you at all. We're going to be hiding in offices yelling at people.
Isn't ZenkaiCon just one day, I think?
Yeah, it's all day Saturday. Crazy awesome stuff.
Oh, good. Then I'll have actually time to get back to my house.
I forget if it's 2 days or not, but whatever. I figure we got to plan out all that travel. I can take the car down to pick you up in the city and then go straight across, or you can take the train up here and then drive all of us.
Yeah, the problem is it's hard to park at my apartment on Friday.
Well, no, you see, because we're going to Jersey, one way to do it would be if you took the train to Tarrytown or something. And then I pick you up in Tarrytown, and then you start driving from there, because then we go right across the Tappan Zee and then down through Pennsylvania.
You're better off parking in Jersey near a PATH train. It's cheaper.
Yeah, the thing is, I've got to drive all the way down through Jersey, park the car there, and then go to work.
You could park at my apartment here if there was a spot on Friday, which
Granted, I'm the master of parking in the city ever since working in the Bronx. I can park.
No, but one of the sides of the street gets swept on Friday, so that's
I'm used to that. Double, triple parking on the sidewalk.
We can't leave it there all day like that.
Yeah. I've done that before with my car to no ill effect, though. I once just parked on the sidewalk. I had no trouble.
All right. So anyway, what's the show going to be about today?
Well, actually, I had a conversation with, remember Ken Juror from the forums? He's an old friend of mine from high school. I think he quit the forum a couple times and finally quitted for good because we always talk about how shitty World of Warcraft is. Yeah, but I randomly started talking to him again after, finding him on LinkedIn. And while I was I think I was homesick. I forget exactly why I was home, but I was laying in bed tired. Maybe I was doing the night shift. And we started talking on Instant Messenger, and he found something really, really interesting on the internet. And I'm going to paraphrase all of this. I'm not going to link to all these different pages, but basically, he had GeoCities and Angelfire websites, much like I had GeoCities and Angelfire websites.
Man, mine don't exist anymore.
And
crosswind.
We linked to each other, right? Because we were friends. All our friends, we'd link to each other's websites and signed each other's guest books and all that stuff. And he was grabbing all the archives and, archiving and saving all his GeoCities and all these websites.
GeoCities is going down.
Granted, weird parts of it are still online.
I don't understand that.
It's ruins of the internet, which we'll get to. So, whoa.
Whoa.
You made a weird noise.
No, you cut out.
That came over Skype.
Okay, let's.
In fact, I can prove it came over Skype because I'm multi-tracking here.
All right. Well, let's roll back a little bit.
Now let's just leave it in. Fast and loose. Fast karate for the Geeknights.
Great.
So he points out that his old Angel Fire website, he had his domain, and at some point, someone else owned this domain because it was like his screen name, but then he got it and then he let it go and all this business. So at his he had found this Angel Fire website, which had in its URL his screen name, which is also that other guy who once owned the same domain screen name. All right. On that website is a pre-blog blog, as in a table that the guy updated the top with like these blog posts. And this guy, who is not Ken, is kind of racist as far as I can tell. But it's obviously not Ken. But here's the weirdest fucking part. He has a link on this page. I think he stole the structure of this page from a website that Ken had once put up or something. Because he has a link to, quote, I got the inspiration to do this from my friend Brad. All right? And there's a link on the word Brad. If you click on the word Brad, the link is to angelfire.com/nc/rim. So I click on this, as Ken
Someone
did.
doesn't know HTML.
And what it links to is not my website, not Brad's website, but an Angel Fire site that has the word rim in it. And it just has this Angel Fire ad, and there's a quote that says, and in the end, when all is said and kings reign the day, fools shall sing and dead shall bring, while angels lose their way. Rim, rest in peace. And then there are 3 links. Talk to the dead, remember the past, and email me. So email me goes to some, I don't even, like, I want to email this to something on this weird domain. Talk to the dead is to sign a guest book. And remember the past is a guest book, as in an internet guest book that looks like finally stopped getting updated around 2006. Was basically
That's a long time.
Was basically nothing but spam from like 2001 until 2004. Like
that makes sense.
Like I've read through the thing. Like percentage of spam increases as time goes on, and if you go all the way back to like, it's weird reading through this. And for a while, I was trying to figure out if maybe this was like a stolen guest book from like one of my old websites.
Yeah, it seems like someone like just like copied and pasted some HTMLs and then edited some bits in them, and left all the rest of it intact and didn't know what was going on. Or
but at the same time, I never
maybe
had
some people hacked into like Angel Fire and GeoCities and just took over whatever site they wanted to. And
so I started poking around more of Angel Fire, and I found all these weird websites that look like it's like, a bunch of hobos break into an abandoned factory and start squatting in it. It's almost like internet hobos at the end of the 90s era of the internet, like in the early 2000s, broke into old websites and squatted in them. And
they
I
still
found
do that, they do that today. The thing is, people usually notice them. It's called vandalism because it's,
But I found all this weird shit all over the internet. And the fact that some of this stuff, like, it's the fact that I found this link on this guy's website with a different name, but still links to a website that has my name in it, and then, like, I don't know. I just don't get it. Because it's not like RIM, R-Y-M, is a common name on the internet, especially the English-speaking internet, let alone from the early 2000s, when most websites that had RIM in them were mine.
What about the Republican youth majority?
They didn't
or that
have
brand of underwear.
that brand of underwear. I feel like I should buy that underwear. But
Your name
I
on
mean,
your
we're
underwear?
talking to give people a perspective. Back in this day, like 1999, when I was like doing this stuff on the internet, if you searched for RIM on the internet, you would basically find a bunch of gibberish, some of which looked vaguely Gaelic. You'd find this weird old etymological website that said it was like an old root of Miriam and it from like old Hebrew languages, and it didn't really say much else. And you found all my websites.
Well, you actually found websites? What were you using?
Well. You found websites insofar as websites could be found in the year 1999 on Alta Vista.
Yeah.
You'd find like broken links to like a GeoCities page that I'd gotten rid of and stuff like that.
All right, so how does this lead into a show topic here?
There are internet ruins all over the place, and we did a show a long time ago on ye old internet and stuff that used to exist on the internet that doesn't exist anymore. And I kind of want to talk about that again because I suddenly like remembered guest books.
GeoCities got taken down?
Yeah, and I remembered guest books, and I remembered that there used to be a time when I would go to a website, and if it was cool, I would sign the guest book and be like, hey, your website's cool, I was here.
Why don't we make a Facebook guest book?
I think
It'll be just like guest books of old, but with Facebook.
Doesn't that wall or whatever it is basically do the same thing?
Yeah, but we can make it so that you can put a wall on a page on the internet.
But isn't that just the same as the side wiki or pooponthiswebsite.com or all those things?
I guess.
It's just another
that's
place.
What people like.
It's just plus, can something like that even work in the modern world? Because back then there were so few people on the internet and the barrier to entry was so high that there was really no shitcocking. If you made a place that people could post stuff, people would honestly post stuff. There wasn't even really spam for a long time. And then suddenly there was a bunch of spam. And then eventually the spam got kind of overwhelmed by just absolute shitcockery. Like just GNAA craziness.
GNAA. I saw somebody on the street. They had one of those grocery push carts.
Yeah.
And there was a sticker on it that said GNAA, but it was some other GNAA, but
wow.
I just couldn't.
If you,
I just could not.
All right, I got to look, because whoever thinks that they're the GNAA, they should really change their name, because I don't think they know.
I don't know what was going on there.
The GNAA, okay, if you search for GNAA, you still find the actual bad GNAA.
Okay.
Wow, yeah, but the second thing down is the Nashville something.
All right.
The Greater Nashville Apartment Association. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, but I mean, what you're saying there about like old ruins of old websites, that's sort of what, I mean, look at something like SourceForge, right? It's like SourceForge is like where all the open source projects went to die back in the day, and like 99% of everything on SourceForge is just some old project that someone started and never worked on. And I think what's happening, right, is because the internet is that, people used to do things and not finish them or not get very far with them, or they just had an idea and they started working on it one day, but then they stopped and that was it. The thing is now, because people are working on the internet, that thing the idea you had and worked on for an hour and then never went back to in your whole life is out there, sitting there, taking up space. It's a web page. Someone can find it. Someone can look at it. There it is. Be it on SourceForge or GitHub or GeoCities or who knows what. It's like they're out there. I've got a whole bunch of them out there.
It's almost like the internet has become so big and it's evolved so much for so long that, I mean, look around any city. Like the city grows up and then like parts of it decay and disappear. And the internet's been around for so long that we have ruins just like real cities do. And we have, like when GeoCities went down, that was the equivalent of like in the Bronx bulldozing an old abandoned warehouse full of hobos.
Yep. And the thing is, right, is actually the reason I think people don't see these things that often, right, isn't because they aren't there. I think there's more and more of them. I think it's because how great Google is. Google will just never send you there ever because it's like, why the hell would you want to go there?
Yep, and his stuff doesn't
it's
get
like
linked
imagine
to.
if you're in a town and the middle of the town was nice and beautiful and had these huge skyscrapers and was clean and polished and amazing. And everything outside the town was like this slum. So it was like the infinite slum.
Well,
right?
even not even looking like New
And
York.
the thing is, even if you there might be some interesting, hilarious things out in the slum, like really creative, cool stuff out there, but you will never find it because Google will never point you in the slum. No matter what you want to find, it'll always find some place in the skyscraper for you to go. Yeah.
That's basically the way it is. Plus, the old analogy of surfing the web is basically dead. No one surfs anymore. You don't follow links on a path unless you're like on Wikipedia.
Yeah, we don't need no web rings.
God, right, web rings. I mean, that was how you'd find a lot of weird stuff because, web ring, you'd follow it, and half the pages you found were abandoned or disappeared or broken links or whatever. Some people would, in the web ring, take you to a site and they use a frame to, like, break the web ring and take you somewhere scary. You'd find, like, exploring the internet used to be like exploring an abandoned building or exploring a building people were using. And now the internet is kind of modernified and we don't find that stuff anymore, but it's still out there, in fact, growing. And also, think about it. When the internet first kind of got big, there weren't that many unmaintained websites, and very few people put any thought into, like, what do they do? Like, they make a website, and then if they lost interest in it, they might just forget about it. But now there's been so much websiting. Like, imagine 20 or 30 years from now. I mean, Penny Arcade, all the stuff we do, will it be maintained forever? Not everyone has the ability to create a corporation to ensure the longevity of the things they create on the internet after their deaths.
You want to see something? You want to see something really crazy?
Maybe.
Okay, so Berkshire Hathaway, right?
My 401k is invested in that pretty heavily.
Anyway, it's a company. It's, the 17th biggest company in the world, something like that?
Well, they're complicated. I mean, look on Google Finance. Look at BRK.A. That is their primary stock. And look at how many dollars it is to buy one share of that.
A bajillion, right? So I just want to show you something interesting. Alrighty, open up your browser and go to www.berkshirehathaway.com.
All right, I'll do that. There's all this silence. Talk while I type.
When you see this website, then you'll understand exactly why I sent you there.
Wow, it looks exactly like the best website in the world in 2001.
I don't know. It looks like the best website in the world in 1998 to me.
I don't know, maybe 2000. Because look, 1998, it wouldn't have been this polished.
I know, and look, it looks like it was actually updated. I mean, look, this part was updated in March of 2009. The annual
Maybe this
meeting
is like
information.
you've got an old man who's been living in the same house for 60 years. He maintains the house very well, but the house still looks like a house that's 60 years old.
Yeah, he's never renovated it. He's got the same refrigerator, the same manual garage door, the same furniture. Right, but it all works. It's all still there. It's all still updated. Old man still lives there just fine with his old stupid stove.
I don't know why he has an ad on the website, though.
Yeah, that's sort of weird, right?
It's like, you really need that money?
I mean, like, even, people have ads, but I mean, like, like McDonald's.com doesn't have an ad on the front page.
Yeah, Microsoft.com does not advertise anything but Microsoft products.
Yeah, let's see, McDonald's.com. Yeah, there is no ads on McDonald's.com that are anything but McDonald's, But anyway, so yeah, this is sort of crazy that you can have things like this that are still around. It's like, don't you think that such a big company would have something modern? But no, not really. They're still using the same old website from 100 years ago.
But I wonder where this trend is going to lead. I mean, imagine we're going to get to the point where a lot of the people, kind of like how children of the 80s right now are going through all the celebrities from my childhood are dying because they're getting to that age where people die. And every generation kind of goes through that. But the internet generations are going to go through that in a really weird way because stuff doesn't stick around past your own death unless you have all these legal structures. Like, you might have, like, podcasting, you might have all the skills to do, like, a podcast about something. But if you don't know about technology and about audio and about websites, you still can't really make a good podcast.
Think about that. Think about how many people started podcasts and then stopped them. Think about how many podcasts are out there. They're like 2 episodes, 5 episodes, and they're just sitting there with no listeners.
And eventually they'll disappear.
But they're out on the internet. They're there.
For now.
You can go on iTunes and find them.
But, like, think about Geeknights. Say Scott and I, we know about technology, so we got Geeknights, like, really good technology-wise. Let's say we didn't know anything about, like, corporations or money or anything like that, and we never incorporated, and we never, like, set up all the structures, the meta structures that would survive us and continue the Geeknights, or at least, like, a trust to ensure that Geeknights stayed online forever, like the archive website. Mm-hmm. So then, if we died, and eventually, at least Scott will die. I mean, I won't die, but
I'm sure.
Ever. But eventually we'll die. And then Geeknights would eventually, all the websites we created, like the legal custody of that might go to our families or something if we didn't set the wills up right. And it eventually would all corrode and disappear unless someone saved it with money and law.
Yeah, so that's what archive.org is about. But think about it. That's the only people doing it. One person, one group. That's it.
And most of the internet has not only no legal wherewithal, but no technological wherewithal. I mean, MySpace and Facebook and places like that are just now barely getting to the point of setting up structures to handle that sort of thing. And
I mean, you look at things like Parthenons and Sphinxes and pyramids and castles, right? It's like it's like on the internet, people build houses, and it's not even 20 years old, 30 years old in terms of public access, and already they're completely gone. All of GeoCities totally wiped out.
Yeah. As we peter off into silence. I don't think there's that much else to say, and I'm really, really hungry, and Skype always makes this difficult.
Yeah. Anything else going on by you there?
Not really. I want to get some dinner. My house is basically this weird because I'm the only one living in it, really. So nothing moves unless I move it, and it's an interesting experience that I have not had for a long time.
The thing's not moving?
Things not moving is a strange experience. Like...
I moved a lot of things.
You did move a lot of things, at least in the downstairs of the house.
Uh-huh.
All around the living room, like stuff would move, and now just nothing moves.
I don't really notice things moving or not moving in my apartment here.
The other thing, and it's not related to Monday at all, but today I was looking at the board games, and I really wanted to play a board game.
I also really want to play a board game. Maybe you should come over and play some board games.
Well, we got Zenkai. Well, get something for me to sleep on, and I'll come over.
Help me. You want to lend me some money? I'll buy that couch.
I think I'm going to buy an inflated mattress and leave it at your apartment.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be pretty good. It'd be something to lay on while watching this TV.
We got the ZenkaiCon. Other than the panels we're doing, I pretty much am just going to sit and play board games and Burning Wheel with people.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Think we're done here. Fast Karate for the Geeknights. I'm going to keep saying that until we get better technological solutions to the Skype Scott in problem.
I ordered a headset, but that's better than this Xbox 360 headset that I'm using. But it's not like an expensive.
I'm also thinking about maybe doing a Thursday episode where since we're Skyping anyway, maybe we'll Skype someone else in addition to us and do some sort of roundtable or something, or another profile in geek like we were doing for a while.
Yeah, let's get some people going on.
Yeah, because I think we got. Did we ever get Daryl? Because we got Gerald on a long time ago.
We did have Gerald.
Maybe we should get Daryl.
Maybe, but he would just be, he's troublesome.
Troublesome, eh? Maybe I'll try to get like Dave Riley or something.
He's more troublesome.
Yeah. If we can get him to sit still for 5 minutes.
Let's get someone who's less troublesome.
Who's less troublesome? Scott Johnson?
Not a bad choice.
Yeah, look at Scott Johnson on after the election, because I don't want to sabotage his electoral aims. I do love, though, we were talking about old people.
He'll be forced to resign after, instead.
We were talking about old people in government, right? So to cover up the fact that he's so crazy young compared to everyone else in the government, you know what his article says? The official article? Scott Johnson, a Hatboro area resident for 29 years. Because he's 29 years old and he was born in Hatboro.
Yep.
But notice how they sidestep that and try to make him sound older than 29 years old? It's clever. Clever girl.
Very clever.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right, we're done.
All old people voting.
Gonna get some food, go to bed, and maybe play a little bit of NS before I go to bed. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.